Hello and welcome to the Make It Count podcast. Today's guest is so full of life. I just love her. It's Glenis Romero Hargreaves. Glenis is a veteran public insurance adjuster, real estate investor, and faith-driven entrepreneur with nearly 4 decades in property recovery and disaster recovery and advocacy. And oh my gosh, she doesn't look old enough for that. She's negotiated over $1 billion in insurance settlements, rebuilt hundreds of homes, and stood shoulder to shoulder with families after fires, wildfires, hurricanes, and total loss, making sure they receive what their policies actually promise. What sets Glenis apart is that she's seen the system from the inside. She understands how insurance companies think, and she brings that knowledge to the people who need it most. Glenis doesn't just handle claims. She walks people through some of the hardest moments of their lives with clarity, strength, and compassion. Her framework is simple: faith, fitness, finances. And her mission is clear: no one should have to fight the insurance battle alone. This conversation is about resilience, advocacy, legacy, and what it really takes to rebuild when everything changes. I'm really glad you're here. So help me welcome to the stage, Glenis Romero Hargreaves. Welcome, Glenis.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Tanya. It's a blessing, an honor, and a privilege to be
It's good to see you again. Now, I know who you are, but for those people watching who don't, tell them a little bit about who is Glenis Romero Hargreaves and what's the work that you feel called to do.
So Glenis Romero Hargreaves, she is first a wife. She's a mother of 4, and the best job, she is a grandma to 7 amazing kids. And honestly, that's the best work. Professionally, I am a licensed public insurance adjuster. I'm a real estate investor, but at my core, I am a faith-driven advocate. I've been called to stand in the gap for families when they're facing powerful institutions alone. My work is to help policyholders, especially after catastrophic loss, recover every dollar their insurance policy promises so they can rebuild their lives with dignity, with clarity, and peace.
I didn't even know what a public adjuster was until my husband and I had a slab leak in 24, and the insurance company said it was a $25,000 repair, which was like, no way, it's way more than that. And a friend said, you should get a public adjuster. So what is that, right? So they introduced me. What the insurance thought 25,000 would cover, it took over $100,000, and every dollar was spent to take care of it.
Yeah, and so that's the problem that I say to people. I am a public insurance adjuster, and they're like, huh?
Yeah.
And that's when public adjusters are a lot more well known. When I started almost 4 decades ago, it was like, you work for the public? Are you a nonprofit? What? So yeah, and then I say, no, I'm a public insurance adjuster. Oh, you represent the company. So yes, I hope that by the end of this conversation, we're able to define that a lot more clear to families and people that need our help, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, you have a completely different experience with insurance, but I know at some point they were required to tell people, even on an automobile repair, right? These are the places we recommend, but you don't have to use those places, because they didn't want to tell people that, right? You don't have insurance companies saying, by the way, if you don't agree with our numbers, you have the right to go find a public adjuster. I said no insurance agency ever.
Exactly. On the contrary,
Yeah.
you don't need somebody like that. We have adjusters. You don't have to pay anybody.
Yeah.
We have an adjuster that represents you. No, you represent the carrier who owes me, right?
Yeah. Well, so you began your career in insurance and restoration. What originally drew you into the industry?
I truly believe, Tanya, that it was divine appointment. So this is how I started. Imagine this, it's 1988, and I my ex-husband didn't want me working in a casino. That's really the origin story. And I got this job, and I didn't really understand when I had the interview what I was supposed to do. My first call is a major fire. I'm sent by this woman. It's a paper company in Baldwin Park, and there is 14 homes around this paper company that were completely destroyed. I didn't even own a cell phone back then. And I called her. Her name is Ann Kello. And I go, hey, Ann, what am I supposed to do again? And she goes, your job specifically is to make sure that families are not taken advantage of. That's what you're there to do. And it was like the light bulb went on. It just like, what? I could totally step into that job because about a year previous to that, I had an accident, and the insurance company basically did not pay any of the injuries that happened on that accident. In California, if you hit, you're at fault. And someone ran the red light. It was my friend that was driving. She was taken to the hospital, and my insurance company refused to pay her injuries. And I felt helpless. I felt hopeless. I just didn't even know what I was going to do with that. And when she said, your job is to advocate for families, I felt like, okay, I am definitely interested in doing this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I borrowed someone else's phone. I spoke to her, and she said, listen, that's what your job is. As I was standing in that neighborhood where, for the most part, it was families that were Hispanics, right? I'm Spanish, and a lot of Mexican families in that area, and they didn't know what to do with their claim. And I ended up getting hired on 8 of those families. And it was like, I went from not knowing anything to going through a college course of what claim adjusting was. And it was incredible, just that experience of taking those 8 families through that journey.
What curiously, it's you went back to when she said that you had had an accident a year earlier and sort of experienced first person what it meant for the insurance companies to not advocate for you.
Exactly, because at that point, I'm not leading with experience. There were
Right.
a lot of other companies that were there. It's a major fire, and there's a lot of companies that are there. But the difference between me and them is that I was leading not from experience. I didn't even own a cell phone. I had a beeper. That's how she texted me for the lead. And I went there to help these families. I was leading with heart. That fire became the beginning of my calling. And I felt very connected to that calling because, yeah, I had this accident where the insurance company didn't do the right thing. But I also had a lot of experience in my life where I needed others to advocate for me, and they were not there. So advocating for anybody, my kids call it unsolicited advice. I'm there. Like,
Yeah.
you see somebody that is not, somebody's doing them wrong at the market, I'm going to open my mouth. I
Yeah.
just love advocating for the public.
Well, and again, me not even knowing what a public adjuster was prior, for those watching, what does it take to become a public adjuster?
Okay. So it depends, right? Every state has their rules. I am licensed in 9 different states. In California, you are licensed by the Department of Insurance, and our job is to advise and assist in the preparation and presentation of a claim. If you are in California, you apply for your apprentice license. You are working under a company. California Public Adjusters, my company. I would be the one training you, teaching you, pouring into you. And you do that for 6 months, and then you have the right to apply. We take a state exam in the state of California. You are studying, literally, you're studying. It's a worse test to me.
Yeah.
Then I mean, I'll put that against a bar any day. It is a complicated, you're studying volumes of law that have nothing to do with adjusting a claim, by the way, but you are required to know those codes of insurance to be able to pass that exam. Once you pass that exam, then you can apply for your permanent license. You're bonded, you're insured. From the minute you apply for your apprentice license, they do a background and everything else. You're handling the money of people, so you have to be
Yeah.
someone that is squeaky clean as far as a record is concerned and all that, because you're dealing with the welfare of families.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to know, right? That it's not something you can just hang a plaque and say, I'm a public adjuster. It's a choice, a deliberate choice and learning. And the apprentice piece, that's interesting. Now, you say California requires 6 months. What about the other 8 other states?
So in Florida, you get an insurance license as if you were working for the carrier. You apply for a 620 license, and then after you have that license, then you can apply as an apprentice to go under someone. Their guidelines are a lot more stricter than California, believe it or not, in Florida. And then you are able to apply for the apprentice license, and then you can go ahead and study for the exam and get your permanent license. With every license, you have to be bonded, insured. Again,
Yeah.
you're representing the public, and you have to make sure that you have a clean record and things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you've worked on both sides of insurance claims, and it sounds like a lot of it could have even been connected to you getting into the field. What did seeing the inside of the system teach you that most policyholders never realize?
So this is the thing. Most policyholders, they generally believe they believe their insurance companies will automatically do what's fair.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah, that's good. That's a fair statement too.
yeah, what I've learned on the inside is that insurance is a business.
Yeah.
Let that sit for a minute. It's a business. And claims, they're negotiated. They're not just automatically paid. If no one is advocating on the side of you, the policyholder, the negotiation always is going to always land in favor of the carrier. Okay.
Right.
Documentation, it matters. Deadline, they matter. If nobody's telling you there is a deadline and you're not going to get all of your money, if you do not have people on your side advocating, you're
Yeah.
not going to get all of your money. Coverage can exist, but if it's not demanded correctly, you're not going to get that money paid. It won't be paid. A public adjuster's role is to advise
Mhm.
and assist in the preparation and presentation of that claim. Without that guidance, families are left trusting slogans, okay? Like, you're in good hands, or you're totally covered.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then benefits quietly just go unpaid. So seeing the system from the inside, it taught me that families need a professional advocate at the table, someone that's standing between them and a system decides, it's designed to minimize payout.
Yeah.
Bottom line. If it's kind of like this, Tanya, let's say that, God forbid, you owe me. We're people of integrity, so this may not apply to you and I, but it's like, I owe you money and you tell me, hey, figure out how much I owe you. That's what you're doing. When
Mhm.
you're saying, insurance company, pay me a claim, you're letting them tell you what is owed, and the burden of proof is on you, the policyholder, not on them.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest shifts I've noticed over the decades in dealing with, and let's say my insurance companies, right,
Mhm.
is I can remember 20, 30 years ago, there was a claim. It seemed like you were talking to, a call center person,
Mhm.
very flat, what have you. That's not the case anymore. And when you think about what people are going through at these really difficult, tragic times, I'm sure what they really want is empathy. And thinking back on, like, the claim that I mentioned, the adjuster from the insurance was really empathetic, right? Which makes you feel you're in good hands when the reality is their hands are paid from the insurance carrier. And I have to believe they almost are probably bonused by keeping claim payouts low.
And that's exactly right. They're bonused, and also understand this, they're trained to be empathetic. They're
Mm,
trained to be your ally, you're their
yeah,
best friend and you can trust them. They're trained that way because, again, insurance companies are a business.
yeah,
They're not there on your behalf. They owe you. That policy is a two-party contract that
yeah.
they wrote, that you just signed, and most people don't read it, and that's the other problem. And then it works for them. And if you do not know exactly what you have as far as coverage, you're not going to get all your money. They're not going to disclose to you, hey, Tanya, we really owe you another 75,000 more and you can get it. And this is the way to go out and get it. They're not going to tell you that.
Wow.
It's not in their best interest. That would be
Right.
conflict, right? So that's the problem.
On average, and I know it probably varies by state, maybe it's percentage make more sense. From what the insurance companies try to say that claim is going to require to what it ends up requiring when you're able to get in and get involved, what kind of a difference is that from a standpoint of the compensation? It's not even compensation. What would you call that?
So it is compensation, right? So the insurance company owes you a certain, they need to indemnify you, right? And it's not that you are going to be better off. You are to be exactly the same way that you were before that claim, and they owe you this X amount of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So the research says that when someone hires a public insurance adjuster, we're able to get them usually average, as far as when you take all the claims that have ever existed,
Right.
anywhere from 40 to 60% more than the insurance company is willing to pay you. There's data where claims have been paid at 788% more than the insurance company. Unfortunately, insurance companies, they will pay you. They cannot not pay you. But the question becomes, how much money are they going to pay you? That's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah, not thinking on how they then manipulate. So you hire a public adjuster. The next piece, again, just through my optics, that the insurance carriers start to do is manipulate you. They don't say it, but they allude to, if this claim gets too large, you could potentially be canceled.
Yeah, so insurance companies, they look to do three things, we say. Delay. That's one of the D's, right? They definitely look to deny a claim. And one of their tactics is definitely, legally, they cannot cancel you based upon the amount you were paid on a claim. There are certain guidelines that they also need to follow before they can cancel you, right? You have too many claims within a certain amount of time, but not the amount. It's one claim. I tell clients, especially like California, as an example, I let them know, look, you already filed the one claim.
Yeah.
You already filed the one claim. They paid you limits, and you think limits is everything, but no, they still owe you extended replacement cost. They still owe you code upgrades. They still owe you inflation. They
Mhm.
still owe most families about 50%
Wow.
of their personal property, because those families have not done an inventory. And you mentioned how things used to be, and I like to go back to that. So
Yes.
we used to be businesses that actually gave service. I don't know if you remember, I'm that old. I'm 61, and I remember going to gas stations where they actually pumped your gas.
I remember that.
Yeah, right. And then gas stations said, oh, wait, we don't have to give people that much service. Let's just let them pump their own gas, right? And that's what happened with insurance companies. They are the ones that are responsible to write that inventory. They sold you that policy, right? They sold you that policy, and it should be them helping you recreate that inventory. No, they put that on the insured. And the reason why they do that these days is because, let's say that you had $300,000
Hmm.
on personal property specifically, and they paid you $150,000, and you're in your 80s, okay?
Yeah.
You probably think, you know what? That's a lot of money. I had this personal property, 20, 30, 40 years in this home. Like, that's enough. No, they did not sell you $300,000 because you did not have 300 in coverage. What
Yeah.
you paid back then, what you paid back then is not the price that you paid today. And they do not owe you the actual cash value on things. They owe you replacement for most of those policies that are in Altadena Palisades. And that is the problem, that the insurance company has only paid 50% on personal property. Emotionally, it is draining. They have also had the really bad experience that some people actually have taken months, done those inventories, to have the insurance company say, we don't owe you. And in some really bad cases, say, we paid you 50%. Now you owe us 20, 30,000 because we overpaid you per this inventory. So
Oh,
people
wow.
do not want to do that inventory because it takes too much out.
Yeah.
Imagine reliving, your wedding dress, what your grandmother left to you, your albums, the things that we cannot replace, that
Right.
were inside our home. People talk about money. There are things that I think about as I'm looking around in my home. There are things that, oh my gosh, if I had a fire and lost everything. I had claims as well. One of the experiences that actually allowed me to know that this was my divine calling was that accident, and when that woman told me that. But
Yeah.
then I had two other claims in my home, and neither one of those claims, the insurance company wanted to pay me what was fair. And I was already in the industry, and that was devastating to me as a single mom of four,
Yeah.
because I wasn't going to settle for something that was not fair to me and my family. So that meant that a claim that should have been paid, like maybe in about 2, 3 weeks maximum,
Hmm.
we were there probably about, at the embassy suites, we were there probably about 5 months. The
Wow.
first, yeah, the first week is like awesome. You have room service, everything is great. But then it gets old with 4 rooms in with 4 kids. And
Yeah.
you're like, take me home, Calgon, right now. And
Yeah.
that was crazy for me. And yeah, I experienced that, and it was like, this is why I do what I do.
You mentioned something I think it's important for people watching to hear. So I'm just going to re-clarify it and make sure that insurance companies lead you to believe if that claim dollar amount gets too high, you could be at risk of being canceled. And what you clarified is it's not the amount of your claim, it's the number of claims you have.
Correct.
which is not what they tell you.
Exactly. It's not the amount. The amount is irrelevant. You can have a claim that never actually monetizes, meaning your deductible is higher
Yeah.
than what the claim was, right? So it's minus zero, right? You
Yeah.
have this claim, it's against you, right?
Yeah.
And you better fix whatever that claim was, even if it doesn't pay you, because this is what I see. So, say as an example, someone has a water claim or a fire or hurricane, whatever the claim may be, and they don't get that money. And then now they have another claim. The first thing the insurance company goes back to is that claim file. What was damaged then? And did you fix it? Because if not, I'm not going to pay you that floor that you didn't fix or that roof or whatever the thing was. So make sure that if you're going to call in a claim, I tell people before you call in a claim, just give me a call. I'll tell you whether it's enough money or not. It just, there's no reason to have a strike against you on a claim that's not going to pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such good advice. Now,
Mhm.
you've helped negotiate over $1 billion in settlements and walked thousands through loss. What separates a claim that truly recovers someone from one that only checks a box?
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have?
We're good. You got the point.
True recovery. It happens when a family receives every benefit their policy provides, not just a quick payment, right? A
Yeah.
claim that only checks a box, it may close really fast, right? But it often leaves significant money behind. I tell people, don't leave hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table for
Yeah.
the insurance company. Don't get burned twice, right? A
Yeah.
claim that truly recovers a family restores their future. That means proper documentation from the start, right? A complete personal property inventory, correct code upgrades calculation, extend the replacement costs, a fully maximize additional living expense. It also means understanding your policy and what you're supposed to be recovering.
Yeah.
This is how I start. I start by doing a full review of that policy and the statement of loss. Like right now, people in California, they're over a year after the claim. That's
Yeah.
the two documents that I tell them. So I'll do a free evaluation, but I want to see the statement of loss, what you were paid, and then I want to see your policy. Your policy, and I'm sorry, don't get offended. I am a Christian. I love Jesus. But that policy, that certified copy of your policy, that becomes the Bible. That's
Sure.
what we stand on to be able to tell the insurance company, hey, this is what they have. This is what you have paid. This is what you owe my client still, right? So those two things identify what was paid and what was actually received. True recovery requires expertise, someone willing to have the hard conversations with contractors. Yesterday, I was in an argument with a contractor from the LA fires. You have to have the hard conversation with vendors because he sent me an invoice. He sent me an invoice, and in that invoice, he's documenting the code upgrades. And I'm saying, no, you're giving me an invoice for these things and thank you. But that's not how I'm able to recover the money for my client. I
Yeah.
have to have a separate invoice for just code upgrades, and I need proof of every one of those by picture. You're saying that this was done to the electrical? Show me a picture, because the insurance company doesn't owe you what you had. The insurance company owes you, like I'm sitting right now in my home, it's a 1978 built, okay? But I've upgraded my electrical. I've upgraded my AC. I have 2 units. It's a big home. We need 2 units here. I've upgraded that. I've upgraded the plumbing. I've upgraded all the things per code that this house requires. Like if I had, God forbid, a claim, I want to make sure that things are good for me and my family.
Right.
So you want to make sure true recovery, it takes expertise, someone willing to be able to say, this is how we get this policy paid. This is the documentation, and aligning that documentation with the policy, what the policy calls for, especially when it comes down to code upgrades. That level of advocacy is what separates checking a box and truly restoring a family. We're not here to check a box. We want to be able to restore a family back to health, back to better than they were before the claim. That's what we want, because
Yeah.
we buy homes, we buy homes the way they are. That's how we buy homes. Now, especially those in LA that had a total loss, we can design a home the way we want. And that's the part that actually comes into the healing piece of
Yeah.
recovery. You bring the entire family together. Hey, Johnny. Hey, Lily. What color do you want to paint your room? What floors do you want?
Yeah.
What you like? That's the beautiful part of recovery. I tell my clients, it's hard to understand claim, especially fires. It's really hard, and not just a fire. You have a claim, it affects you. But you and I, Tanya, we have a support group that actually is there to help
Yeah.
us. We have family, we have friends from church, we have neighbors, all these people that come alongside us to help us. When you have an entire community, your church burned down, everything around you burned down, you have this immense grief
Yeah. I can
that
only imagine.
you don't even know how to handle, because you know in your heart that your community is not going to come back to what it used to be before the fire in your generation. I have 300 families from Paradise. Terrible fire in 2018. I'm sorry, it was a retirement community. 90% of those elderly people did not go back to Paradise. And even if they went back, they're not going to see those beautiful trees that were there. It took many, many, many years for even those trees to be there. So when you don't have that support, when everyone around you has actually lost everything, you definitely need an advocate, because you're grieving, you're fighting a corporation, you're fighting a system, you are in a state that you cannot see clearly. And why would I trust? Why I tell people, why would an attorney hire me? Why? They know what to do. It's because we should. The same reason why we should not operate on ourselves. We
Yeah.
need experts that can actually separate from, this is my cup, and this
Right.
cup is meaningful. Not just meaningful because it's a cup, but it's meaningful because my husband, actually, there's a story about this huge cup, right? So I cannot separate myself from the story, from how emotionally this fire is affecting my life. And therefore, more so, I need a professional to come alongside me.
When you were talking about the checking the box and the insurance companies paid something, again, ignorant insurance person, right? When they send you that check and they send it to you quickly, they're like, we'll get it to you quickly. They ask you to sign a release. It sounds
Oh,
as if what you're saying is, even if they've already signed the release, which would leave a lot of people thinking, well, I'm done. I've already signed the release. Was I hearing that you're saying they could still make claims on the claim?
no. So that's that. One of the guides that I'm going to give to your audience is giving them a free guide. And one of those points is definitely do not sign a release, because once you sign a release, you cannot go back.
Oh, wow.
Insurance company, you cannot go back. Um, it doesn't mean that if you got paid policy limits, you sign a release. No, it doesn't mean that. Insurance companies come in, they pay you limits, right? And that's usually what happens right after a disaster, especially again in California, where all eyes are on you, the state, the insurance company, right? And they come in and they pay policy limits. There's all this money that is still owed,
Mhm.
but most people have not signed a release. A release is where you literally have to sign and notarize your signature. And if you have not signed something where you had to notarize, you have not accepted full settlement. And
Oh,
most
that's
people, I
important.
would say only 0.1% of people have done that.
Yeah, that's then people should know that because they certainly allude to the fact that once they've paid this, you're good. Like, that's
Yeah,
it, we're done. Interesting.
exactly.
Wow. The Now, what are the most common mistakes you see total loss families make in the first 90 days, and how costly are they long term?
Okay, so the biggest mistake I see families make in that first 90 days is they don't have an expert review their
Yeah,
claim early, right? In the first 90 days, like the biggest decisions are made for the entire claim, right? Accepting early settlements, right? Signing, waiving their rights, signing releases, right? That's huge. I see a lot of people do that, right?
yeah,
So you accept an early settlement, you sign a waiver, that can permanently close those doors on benefits families are entitled to, right? Another common mistake is missing documentation requirements and letting deadlines pass. In California, you have 36 months from the first day that they issue a check. So if the insurance company came, paid you limits on your dwelling, say at the end of January, most people were paid less than 30 days from the fire,
yeah,
then from that day, the clock starts ticking. So you have 24 months from there to actually recover the rest of your money. What I see is people just throwing their hands up in the air and saying, this is too much. I tried to do this inventory. I can't. I cried
yeah,
too much. This is too hard. And they don't do the proper documentation. When documentation isn't presented correctly, then coverage, it's like coverage never existed. They don't get paid, right?
yeah,
These mistakes can cost families tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And once the deadline expires, that money's gone permanently. So having an experienced advocate early, someone who understands the policy, the deadlines, and how to hold contractors and carriers accountable protects the family from that irreversible decision and positions them to actually get paid their full recovery, right? So you want to make sure that if you have not hired a company, someone to come alongside you,
yeah,
and you're part of the LA fires, like, you know that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago, but the next best time is today.
yeah,
Well, let someone review your claim package today so that if you have the 24 months, right, you're able to get the most out of what that policy covers. You're entitled to that. You've been paying for years for this coverage. There's people that had their policy 30, 40 years, never made a claim. And all of a sudden, they had a claim. Well, let's recover. We've been paying this thing for a long time,
right.
right?
You said something in there from a standpoint of they're trying to pay fast. There's major things that happen in life, and losing your home and the things that your parents left to you, your grandparents left to you, that would come close to almost, in my mind, similar to losing somebody you love, right? And when you were talking about they have to try to do this and it's too much. I mean, whenever we as humans recall something traumatic or negative, we subconsciously step back in and relive it. Whereas when it's something positive, we see it out in front of us, like a picture, like a great vacation. The Yeah, how do you go about helping them do that inventory, which clearly is very important, and try to alleviate that trauma, right? That emotional stepping back in and having to continue to relive it.
So this is what I tell people. Before I ever met you, I have about 75% of your inventory done. They're like, huh? I go, yeah, just think of it. We all have about 75% of the same things at home. I'm sitting on what?
Yeah, chair.
A chair. I'm pretty sure you are too, right?
Yeah.
We sit in
Yep.
chairs. We have cups, we have forks, we have tables, we have beds, we have a lot of the same things. That 25% where I'm going to need your help, right? It's going to be in that gift that you picked up in Italy.
Yeah.
That, dress that was passed down from one generation to the next, right? That ring, those dishes, you know what I mean? It's those things that are specific to you. And obviously, of course, I have my clients look at the inventory. And if, say, as an example, I bought my furniture from City Furniture, right? That's where I bought my furniture. And it may be that, no, that maybe you went to Macy's. So what do I need? I need by that dining set for you to tell me where that was purchased.
Yeah.
And my job as a public adjuster is to get the replacement cost. So going back, insurance, imagine that everything in your home has a lifespan. So if my glasses, if these are supposed to last me a year, say that the lifespan of these glasses is a year, and I had them say 6 months, and I pay, say, $100 for these glasses, the insurance company wants to pay me 50 cents. That's called the ACV value. Where in reality, if I bought them 6 months ago, they may be 105 today. It may be 112 today, right? Because
Yeah.
inflation. So the job of a public insurance adjuster is to take these glasses and say, I am going to see where online I find these glasses for 105, 110, 112. And I take those 3 links and I send it, I attach it. So on my form, there's literally hundreds of thousands of items, but each item has 3 links of replacement as of today. When
Yeah.
you bought it, doesn't matter. It's how much it's worth today. Although the insurance company would like to tell you differently. What matters is if I have replacement costs, is how much is it gonna cost me to buy that item today. So what
Yeah.
I tell them, we work on the phone. Our content specialists, they're trained, I say they're trained trauma badasses. That's my
Nice.
word that I curse. I'm sorry.
I do
But
too. For it.
yeah, so they're not contents inventory people. They will, let's say that they're calling your grandmother Mary, who just had this loss, and they're supposed to meet with them at 2 o'clock. They're calling Mary, and at 2 o'clock, Mary says, and we're supposed to work with them because everything is scheduled for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And they say, Mary says, you know what? Today is not a good day. That contents inventory specialist will sit on the phone with Mary for probably about an hour and talk about the sky, the moon, and everything else, but
Yeah.
the inventory. And then, hey, when can we reschedule? And it may be that the next time Mary feels the same way. And that's okay, because that's what we're there to do. We're there to work with clients at their own time, at their own pace, to, yes, recover everything their policy calls for. But besides being a public adjuster, I am a human. I am also a policy holder.
Yeah.
I am also someone who has had claims denied, not paid, said it's going to be underpaid. I have had those experiences myself. So I have dealt with trauma for many years, and not just with work, but in other areas of my life. And I can definitely step into that because God had a plan and a purpose for everything He allowed me to go through to step
Yes.
into this position of advocacy. So that's how we do it. We do it with a lot of empathy and compassion for the policyholder.
If the policyholder is trying to do that inventory themselves, the insurance company is expecting there to be 3 different links to what things cost today. Like, is that
That's what they're expecting. Is that what the policyholder is doing? No. And the insurance company is not going to tell them that. The insurance company is just going to take that inventory, for the most part, hire a third party who's going to take that list and cut it in half and say, hey, I don't owe you anymore. That's usually what happens. And believe it or not, one of our content specialists, she actually works for one of the big names on the side of the insurance company for many years. And she knows exactly what they do. She said, Glenis, before that list is ever looked at, the adjuster cuts that list by 30%. And then we're supposed to cut it another 20%. And it's just insane. And this is a major contents inventory company that's used by most carriers. And it is a shame, but that's how they are able to keep their buildings high and their money in their pocket. I don't want to live that way.
No, for sure. Now, you often talk about the FIT Trinity, right? The faith, fitness, and finances. What do those 3 things belong together? Why do they belong together and not in silos?
They belong together because, and again, this is my beliefs, right? So I believe that this is truly the temple of God's Holy Spirit, and we need to take care of our bodies. I wish I would have known that from day one, but I learned it the hard way at 50, that I had to take care of my body. And I wish that we, the church, did a better job at actually telling people we need to take care of this body. And so they belong together because they strengthen one another. The body is a temple. And if I don't take care of my physical health, I can't fully show up for families I serve. I just can't. Advocacy, it takes endurance. It takes endurance emotionally, physically, and mentally. Faith, I believe, is the foundation of everything. It takes faith to stand in what often feels, for me, this is what it feels for me, definitely in my early 20s, as I was fighting the David and Goliath, right? That was the position. I tell my clients all the time, it's not my ability, it's not my experience or my strength, it's the favor of God. Because David, so he was including his brothers, right? They were trained warriors. That's what they were out there, right? And David did not come. I mean, he's a little kid fighting this giant. And he says, I don't stand under the power that I have, but I stand under the power that has been given me. And with this little sling, I'm going to take you down. An insurance company with this little sling, to you it may be little. To me, is the anointing and the favor of God. I show up, and when I show up, I cannot separate faith. I just can't. It is faith. We do need to be able to take care of that body. But then the finances that the Lord allows me to help you collect, those finances, we need to be good steward of that, right? My mission isn't just helping families recover financially. It's helping them be able to regain wholeness, right? After crisis. So faith, fitness, financing, working these 3 together allows us to just live a full life. I believe that God intended for us to live a full life, and you cannot separate one from the other. It's just my belief.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, not to get too far down the rabbit hole of the Bible, but if you think about the lessons that we learned, like Job, right? Job lost absolutely everything. And with the rebuild, it was even better. It didn't take away the loss, it didn't take away the grief that he had to go through, but he was restored even more so. What a blessing for you to help people with that. Like, I started this conversation to start with, I didn't even know it was a thing until I needed it. And then if I wouldn't have had it, we would have been upside down and wouldn't have realized that we were being, I hate to say taken advantage of, but insurance is a business, right? And when you're dealing with loss, you're in an emotional state. It's upsetting. The final question as far as this part, if a family listening today is overwhelmed, underpaid, or unsure what to do next, what would you want them to hear from you right now, Glenis?
Oh my gosh. So I'm an island girl, right? I'm Spanish. I'm from DR. And in the islands, we scream from one backyard to another. That's what we do in the country, right? So I
Yeah.
want you to hear this really loud. You're not alone. You're not powerless. And there's still time. There's still money available to you, but you must act quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to navigate the system by yourself. Bringing someone to the table who understands how claims work, who will fight for what is rightfully yours.
Yeah.
My team and I, we offer free evaluation of claims. It doesn't mean I'm going to earn your business, but at least you'll know, hey, I was pay this, I bought this is what they still owe me, right? There's hundreds of thousands of dollars for those families from California on the table. But if you just had a claim, like Tanya that just had a claim, like what is the difference, Tanya, between what you were paid and what you eventually got paid? Right?
Yeah, it
All
was
that.
it was 5.5 times more.
Yeah. So
And we
that's
spent, and every penny of it went to what was necessary.
Yeah. So our goal as public insurance adjusters, at least my company, our goal is to make sure you don't leave money on the table. And, the last thing we want for families is to be able, 95% of my clients are fire survivors. And I say that over and over again. You don't want to be burned twice.
Yeah.
First by the fire and then by the insurance process. Like, let's not do that. Sometimes the hardest thing is simply just reaching out, but it's one step that can change everything. One step, one phone call, you're one decision away from actually taking care of your family. We're part of this beautiful community with PACE, and I tell investors all the time, let's do the right thing before the claim. Let's
Yeah.
make sure that we look at our policy and we actually review our policy and make sure that we are covered properly, right? But then after when we have a claim, let's make sure that we have an expert on our side that can advise and assist in the preparation and presentation of our claims so that we can get the most out of what that policy promised.
Well, I'm going to ask you another question in a moment because you
Sure.
mentioned you're licensed in 9 states.
Sure.
Are public adjusters available in all 50 states?
No, almost. I don't know the answer to the ones that are not. I wish that I did know the answer. There's some states that do not require an actual license.
Okay.
They call it something else as a public adjuster, and I think there's 2 states that actually do not allow public adjusters. Yeah, I can't, I should know this stuff, but
No,
I'm
that's
an idiot.
okay.
So sorry.
No, the reason why I asked specifically is because, clearly California gets the fires, the tragedy of what happened with Altadena, right, and the Palisades.
Hmm.
The Pacific Northwest in December had traumatic flooding, took out roads, took out
Hmm.
properties.
Yes.
It even made the news. It was, I mean, that's how sad it is. So for those people who are watching, one, I know a lot of people in California, please, this is streaming in multiple places. Share it, take the link, send it to the people you know that have been impacted by those fires, because what Glennis is giving you is just so important. And don't let emotions stop you from getting made whole in that loss. Now, we know it's Florida and California. What are the other states you're licensed in, Glennis?
I am one of my favorite states that I'm licensed in is Hawaii. I'm licensed in Florida. I am also licensed in North Carolina. I am licensed in Texas. I am licensed. I'm trying to think of all the different states. I predominantly do business in California
Yeah.
and Florida. And but going back to, I had to look it up because that's just, I told you I'm ADHD. Alabama does not license or recognize public adjuster. Alaska does not issue public adjuster's license. South Dakota is the one state that does not require. Um, and then Arkansas is doesn't allow. There's no requirements. They do not allow public adjusters in Arkansas. So
No,
those are there you go. That is it. Yes. So I
no, I
want,
appreciate that.
yeah, yeah.
Glennis,
I'm grateful.
yeah, this is very helpful with a lot of people dealing with this. Again, they can take the replay. For all those that are watching, share it. I personally had colleagues from before I retired that lost everything. Uh, I intend to share it with her for sure. So thank you for being on with us.
Thank you
And
for having me. What a great gift this has been. I'm also grateful to Pace. Pace, if you ever watch this, for pushing me. He literally said to me in my one-on-one, he said, "You're so selfish, Glennis."
oh,
Yes. He said, "You have this great strength. You're able to come alongside of people." And isn't that biblical? You're supposed to come alongside those that cannot defend themselves,
yeah.
and you don't show up online. So this is me showing up online. If you have any questions, please, please, I am going to be giving a free guide of how not to get burned twice. We will have that in the comment. But if you have any questions, feel free to text me. My number is 626-879-6002. Feel free to reach out. It's my way of showing up, Pace. I am
Yeah.
going to show up for those that need help.
Now, how do they get the free resource? Maybe if we go ahead and share it with them audibly too.
Yes, so they can, we will have it in the comments in the link. It will be a link and then they can get it that way.
Wonderful. All
Yes.
right. So Glennis, appreciate you and thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you so much. Grateful for you, my sister. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.